Welcome back to another video. I am Scott with Techno Eclipse. In today's video, I want to talk about how Apple pretty much forced me to build a computer. I'm Scott with Techno Eclipse, and if you want to join the Techno Eclipse community, it's very simple. Send me a Western Union money order to a P.O. box that I could tell you in a DM for about $2,000, probably a little bit more if you really want to make sure you're in. And then you got to hit subscribe, like, comment, share, and tell all your friends and family. And then you're part of the community. Congratulations. So how did Apple force me to leave my MacBook behind and build a computer? It's actually a fairly short story. So I recently purchased a Panasonic Lumix GH5 that you're watching this beautiful 4K, 24 frames per second, 10-bit video. And if you might not know anything about 10-bit video or 4K, it's relatively demanding, albeit not nearly as demanding as some cinema cameras, but you're looking at about a gigabyte to a gigabyte and a half per minute. So I purchased my MacBook Pro thinking, well, this has got an i7-4960HQ, late 2013 MacBook Pro, literally the best MacBook Pro Apple made from 2013 all the way up until 2015. It has the best processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, GT750M. It was a really good computer. But one day I was editing my video on Premiere Pro, which obviously it would work better in Final Cut Pro, but I like Premiere Pro better. I've tried Final Cut Pro, but I like Premiere Pro better. So don't comment that. And while I was editing the video, it wasn't working. Like the thing was glitching out, and I'm like, okay, well, let me just restart. So I exited out of the file, saved it, and then I shut down my computer, and then I tried to turn it back on, and it wouldn't turn back on. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I reset the PRAM, P-R-A-M, and still didn't work. So then I started to get concerned. And then I reset the SMC, and it still wouldn't turn on. So essentially, long story short, the computer pretty much just broke itself. It ended up working like a few days later after I properly reset the SMC. I don't think I did it right the first time, but I was forced to reinstall macOS, and I had lost everything I had done on that video. And I had just lost pretty much everything that I had on that computer. I didn't have a backup. Of course, I'm stupid. I've learned better now. But that was a little bit ridiculous. So it pretty much forced me to buy and build a computer. I was running an eGPU with a GTX 780 inside of it, and it helped the videos a little bit. But I still had to use proxy files, and on that MacBook Pro to render out these 10-bit 4K at 24 frames per second proxy files, it took like 30 minutes. So my editing time was like quintupled because of all that. So I was like, well, I like the camera. I'm keeping the camera. So I knew the computer had to break. I ended up selling that for about $750, $740 because the guy didn't like the charger he had, whatever. $740, and then I took that money and built a computer. What did I build, you might ask? I built a very good computer. I went with Intel because I had an AMD build, and Premiere Pro was shutting down pretty much every few minutes. So then, now I'm thinking, as I'm saying this out loud, maybe it was just Premiere Pro and not any of the computers. It was just Premiere Pro. But since I built an Intel system, I've been fine. I have an i5-8600K inside of my computer down there. I know I'll get it off the floor. I'm going to move it here in a few days once I get the proper stand for it. It's got a GTX 1070, which I bought for $185. That's a good deal. 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, NVMe storage, got a terabyte hard drive inside of it, and an extra SSD. And now what a lot of people might be saying is, well, I think maybe you should have switched to Final Cut Pro or Premiere, but I already addressed that. The next thing a lot of people are probably going to say is make a Hackintosh. And I've tried that, but I've had a lot of trouble with Hackintoshes in the past. I've tried to build one on my channel, and I just had a tough time with it. I couldn't just get it exactly right. I guess I'm just not good enough at it. Maybe I needed a different motherboard or whatever, but right now I'm having trouble doing that. I'm trying, but I'm having trouble doing it. So for now, I'm stuck with Windows. And what are my thoughts on the experience? Well, my editing time has been cut in almost half. To render out a 4K 10-bit file that's about 10 minutes long, it pretty much takes about 10 to 12 minutes. That's pretty good. I'm used to way longer than that, 30 to 50, so I'm really happy with the performance. And honestly, I hate Windows, but Windows allows you to upgrade your computer. It runs Premiere Pro, so I guess I'm happy with it. But once I get into the apps, I'm okay. I don't do a lot on my computer. It's pretty much just Google Chrome and Premiere Pro. So I guess I don't need anything else. I miss macOS a ton. Don't get me wrong, macOS is my favorite operating system. out of all operating systems, not even just like iOS or Android or Windows or Linux. Like out of all of those, macOS is my favorite. So unfortunately, I had to sell my MacBook Pro and build a computer, but there are a lot of advantages to that, and these are the main reasons why I decided to build it. One is just upgradability. On a lot of Apple's computers, all of Apple's computers, there is no real upgrade path unless you use some type of eGPU, which is okay for some, but for me, I like to be able to plug it in and then just pull it out. I don't have to do any fancy, hokey, smoky stuff. So I can upgrade the graphics card, the CPU, the RAM, and Windows is fine enough for now. Maybe I'll get annoyed with it. In general, I just needed an upgradable system that could handle the files that I'm sending to it. The i5-8600K handles it in real time at full resolution pretty much almost every single time. I think that's thanks to the GTX 1070 that's inside of there, thanks to the CUDA cores. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. Why did Apple push me away from macOS? Because it's too damn expensive, and there isn't a computer that fits my needs. There is one computer that I would consider getting. It's a Mac Pro 4,1 or 5,1 with the dual CPUs. Those computers I've bought a bunch of. There's actually one sitting over there. I just bought one recently. I'll be making a video on that, so if you want to stay tuned, you know what to do. So I needed a cheap computer under about $1,000, cheap relative, under about $1,000 that could do everything I wanted to do and possibly have an upgrade path in the future. The iMacs, the 5K iMacs I had looked at, but it only has 4 cores. It's running either an i7 6700K or 7700K, and to me, that wasn't a huge step up from my laptop. I know it's more powerful, but I needed more power than that. The only other computer would have been that Mac Pro, but those are running Xeon processors. They have poor single-core scores. Still great computers. I'm going to make a video on it and why it's my favorite Apple computer, pretty much. But at the end of the day, there was just no Apple computer that fits my needs. And I know I might not be a popular candidate, but I feel like a lot of people want to buy a computer and don't want to have to spend a bunch of money on it. And then they also want to have the chance to upgrade it in the future. Like, to me, I got sick of every time I wanted to upgrade my Mac or the computer I was using, which was a Mac at the time, I had to sell it and then buy a whole new one. Like, to me, that's a way bigger hassle because you can't buy the new one until you sell the old one because what you're doing is dependent on that money. So instead of having to just sell the computer and then buy a new one, it was just nice to sell the graphics card and then just buy a new graphics card, or buy a new graphics card and then wait for the other one to sell so you get the most money that you can. So Apple pushed me away because they don't offer a computer that is remotely even close to what I could get performance-wise on this computer or cost-wise. I know it's a constant struggle with Apple where it's like, oh, macOS is amazing in my own head, but it's too expensive. And maybe one day I'll be able to afford the computer that I would love to get from Apple, but it's just not right now. It's too much money, and I think a lot of people are in this mess where they want a macOS computer or they want an Apple computer, but they just can't afford it. So build yourself a Windows computer. It's the next best thing because it's the only other thing. And you'll get more performance, granted, but you miss out on a lot. I like macOS. I like the iMessage integration. I like all the iCloud features. I really do like macOS, but Apple pushed me away from it because it's too damn expensive, everything. So those are my thoughts on why I switched to Windows. Have you ever switched to Windows? Have you ever left macOS? Have you ever joined the dark side? Joined macOS. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on what I did. Was there a different way around it? Please don't tell me a Hackintosh. I know you can make a Hackintosh. Or is there a different computer? I think the Mac Pro 5,1 is probably the only computer that would have handled what I needed to handle. But again, those are getting a little bit long in the tooth. I don't know if they're going to be able to export the files or whatever. And maybe if those benchmarks are what I'm hoping they might be, maybe I'll be able to go back to that Mac Pro 5,1. But stay tuned. If you like the video, hit subscribe, hit that like button, hit the share button, hit the dislike button, hit the comment button, hit the play one of my next videos button. And then remember, send me that Western Union money order so I can make all kinds of cash. All right, see you guys in the next one. Peace out.